In this latest episode of the Photography News podcast, Kingsley cleans his legs, Will takes pictures out of his back bedroom, and Roger gets in the bath. Hello and welcome to the second Photography News podcast. My name is Roger Payne and I'm the editorial director, and I'm joined again, same as last time. Sorry, it's the same two people again. We couldn't get anybody new, by two guys from the Photography News team. And we're just going to have a little chat for half an hour. I'm staring out the window and looking at a beautiful day out there. Hope you're all staying safe and well. But let me introduce, first of all, contributing editor at Photography News, Kingsley Singleton.
Hello.
Hi, Kingsley.
Yeah, I can't see out my window because I've drawn the curtains just simply to improve the excellent sound quality that I'm known for.
That's very good.
And stop people looking in and laughing at me.
Of course. And obviously, talking of sound quality, we did have a couple of people get in touch to say the fantastic quality of sound that we got from Mr. Photography, Mr. Will Chung. How are you doing?
I'm good, guys. How about you? And I hope the sound is better this week. I'm trying hard, honest.
I'm not sure it is that much better, Will. You bought a new microphone, but it doesn't work. Is that right?
Well, I bought a headset for gaming. Well, actually, I bought a headset for the podcast, but then I can actually use it for gaming too. But it's not working. I've got no idea of technology, guys. You should know that.
It doesn't matter. I'm sure it's the gems of advice that people listen in for. So let's get straight into it. Will, why don't you tell everybody what you've been up to over the last week?
Well, you know what? Despite the fact we're locked in, I've been shooting like a mad thing. And that's partly because we've got a feature in the next issue, which is the stay home feature. So I've had to come up with a load of ideas about what to do with your camera while locked in at home. And the other day, you wouldn't believe it, I spent till 3 o'clock in the morning doing 450 shots of stars out my back bedroom window.
So you weren't outside, you weren't standing outside in the garden?
Well, I didn't want to stand out there for 3 hours when a camera did 450 pictures. Because obviously, if you put your camera outside and then it click away, you never know who might come along and swipe it, simply. So I just propped my camera up against a backroom window with a wide-angle lens, set it to take a picture every 3 seconds, so the exposure was 10 seconds. It did 3 seconds gap in between each one. I did 450 of them, which I then stacked together in software. So I have a star trail. So bizarrely enough, even though we have been locked in, I've shot loads and loads of pictures. You know, we're going to get around to indoor shooting later, so I'll cover more. But certainly I've been really busy with my camera. My Nikon is exhausted, I have to say.
I've often trekked for miles on end and sought out really dark sky places to do astrophotography, but I'm relieved to hear that you can do it from a back bedroom window somewhere in Cambridge here.
Well, we haven't seen the picture, that's all I'd say.
Well, the picture will be in the next issue of Photography News, so you can see that actually works quite well. And the stacking software I use controls the highlights, so you don't get any burnt out highlights from the foreground.
So what's the software, Will?
It's called Star Stacks. It's a free download from starstacks.com, and it works really well. I mean, it's cross-platform too, so whether you're Windows or Mac, you can use it. I found it amazing.
So any particular technique stuff on it? I mean, in terms of, because I've had a go at it before, and I think you have to try and find the North Star.
Well, if you want to do the North Star thing, which of course is the North Star that doesn't move in inverted commas, and everything rotates around it, obviously it depends where you are. Now, I actually have got, when you see my final picture, the North Star at the very top end of the frame, because shooting from a window is quite restricting. The window is shut as well. So I just had a small tripod on the windowsill and had a 14 or 24 millimeter wide angle pointing more or less straight up. So you'll see on the picture the curtains and the window frame and everything. I mean, you know, Kingsley's right. If you want to do it properly, you have to go to a dark area, go outside. Right. But in the spirit of lockdown, I did it from my back bedroom window to show it can be done. And yes, it was tough because I decided at 3 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to take the camera down and turn it off. So in the morning, nobody could see this camera by the window thinking I was shooting them doing something suspicious. But it took until literally till 3 o'clock in the morning. But I stacked the results the following morning. I was very happy. But let's face it, they're not going to be winning me competitions or anything like that. But I wanted to show what can be done at home during lockdown. So that's the essence of the feature I put together for the next issue of Photography News.
Fantastic. And as Will's touched on there, we are going to cover off some more stuff about things that you can photograph while we're still in this lockdown state. As at the time of recording, we're just heading into Easter, which is going to be 4 very difficult days, I would imagine, for quite a lot of people. With the weather's going to be good, but we are having to stay indoors, and it looks like it's going to be extended beyond that time as well. So, Kingsley, what have you been doing?
Well, I carried on with what I was doing last time that I spoke about, which was to keep going back through old images, folders and folders of images, and sort of editing those and kind of getting new life out of them. And what I also tried to do was start showing them off a bit more, putting them on Instagram and things. And I had a funny thing that I had the most likes of any of my pictures ever on Instagram. It was only like 60 likes. It's nothing, right? I don't do it much. But then the funny thing was that I then noticed that 5 people had stopped following me. So I had kind of delighted and disgusted in equal measure. The other thing that I was doing, I haven't really been shooting anything, but I've been taking this time to kind of go through and basically just try and have a big old sort out. Loads of drawers of filters and things I'm trying to kind of catalogue. But also I have taken it upon myself to strip down all my tripods and clean them. Because I had this really nice Gitzo tripod that was basically like just full of grit. It's like a trombone full of rocks kind of carrying it around, making this horrible noise. And the legs didn't sort of slide. But it only took me 20 minutes. I kind of got the legs apart with a kind of a, so to speak, with a hose. And sort of took all the bits off, cleaned it, and kind of put this sort of silicone kind of lubricant stuff on it to make it kind of slide nice and easily. And it was really good, and it works fantastically. I can see this is kind of going to a blue place though. So, Rog, what have you?
It's like I'm not quite sure how many euphemisms you can fit into one podcast. This is going to need a little E after it, just to say explicit content. Well, as before, my shooting has been far less glamorous than Kingsley's, with his legs all over the place. I have been persevering with taking my camera out when I take the dog for a walk, and actually I did get what I thought was a really nice picture, and I posted it on Instagram, and I got no unfollows, and I got 25 likes, but that's presumably because I haven't got as many followers in the first place. So yeah, anybody who wants to follow me on Instagram, it's at Rog Payne. I'll get the plug in. What about you, Kingsley?
I'm Kingsley_photo.
And Will?
I'm not sure if I can remember this correctly, but I think it's Will Chung Tog.
Will Chung Tog.
Photographer. Yeah, Will Chung Tog.
Fantastic. And of course, because we all work for Photography News, it's probably worth mentioning that at Photo News PN is the Photography News Instagram handle. Yeah, so I took my camera out, got this really nice shot of a tractor backlit by the sort of last sun of the day. And then I came back, and actually on the same day I photographed my cross polarization project, which you talked about in the previous podcast, and I know you guys also put some stuff up on the website. So if you didn't hear our first podcast, go back and listen to it, where we talk about all sorts of things that we've been up to, including cross polarization and sorting your bits and bobs out. And Will, you was chucking food dyes into water, so all good stuff. So one of the other things we talked about last time was Kingsley. We were talking about favourite cameras, and what was that camera that you dug out? That favourite camera of yours, or your first camera?
That was my Zenit, sorry.
And you dug that out of the loft, and I kind of thought, well, it's been a while since I've been up in my loft actually, so I kind of disappeared up into my loft just to see if I could find anything of a photographic lilt up there that might be of interest. And unsurprisingly, there's a load of stuff up there, including a projector that Will sold me about 25 years ago. There is a theme that everybody who works pretty much on Photography News has had something sold to them by Will Chung, and mine is this particular light projector. But I didn't bring that one down. What I did bring down is an old Canon camera that I found. Now, not the T90 that I'd mentioned in the previous podcast, but actually something that's far more kind of odd, I guess. It's a Canon Ion RC 260. Now, I don't know if that rings any bells with any of you. I thought I was going to say to you, it's one of the first digital cameras, but actually that's not entirely true to say it's a digital camera. What it actually is a still video camera, because what it does is it records analog TV lines onto a floppy disk. So it's not a digital camera, it's a still video camera. It records images onto a 2-inch floppy disk. It's got a massive resolution of 230,000 pixels, and it's really kind of like quite a lovely little bit of design. Are you familiar with the camera, chaps?
Well, going back, I think when I was on practical photography, I tested it, but I can't remember much more about it. I remember it being quite an interesting shape. And of course, yeah. I said at the time, probably somewhere along the line, that digital would never, ever, ever catch on, and film were always raw. Obviously, I was proved completely wrong there.
Yeah,
but I remember being quite clever, and obviously there are other things that followed on soon after that.
Is this the one that it almost looks like a monocular, like it's a sort of a flat shape with a lens on one side?
Yeah, it's exactly that, and in a kind of old VCR style, the floppy disk sort of window pops up at the top, and you slide in the little. Yeah, I mean, you'd love it, Kingsley, to be honest.
Nice action, yeah.
Well, no, it's quite an abrupt action, to be honest. It just sort of pops straight up, but it's a lovely bit of kit. I don't actually know if it works. I haven't got round to trying to charge the battery up or anything like that, but no, it's a cracking bit of kit, and it obviously made me think about what you chaps might have in your respective lofts. So, Will, you must have a treasure trove of camera gear up in your loft.
Well, strangely enough, I haven't, but I did wander into the loft to have a look around and see what photographic things I could find, and promise not to laugh at this, because obviously we're doing this in our respective living rooms. Yes. But I'll show you this. This is what I found. This is a picture of me as a baby in swaddling clothing and all the rest of it. And the reason I did bring it down from the loft, because I thought, as I found it, it's in a print, it's a frame and everything else. I thought, I actually haven't got a copy of this picture. So should something horrible happen in my loft, mice get in there, or fire, or anything horrible and untoward, I'd lose it forever, which of course would be a terrible loss for civilization.
Will, we have to put that picture up on the website. It's got to go up.
Well, once I've copied it, obviously you can. I'm not going to sign a model release, so careful how you use it, okay? And I think the message for me was to our listeners that perhaps it's worthwhile archiving your pictures like this so that it's never lost. You've always got a record of it digitally. It's a family heirloom, I was thinking.
Can we actually confirm, Will, that is actually a photograph and not a kind of sketch? Photography was invented when you were a babe, was it?
I'm old, but not that old. It's a genuine black and white picture.
It is. It's a nice frame. It's in a nice frame as well. That's lovely, Will. That's lovely. Now then, Kingsley, your loft is famed. It's creaking. The roof bows in your house, does it not? So surely you must have something up in your loft.
Going into my loft is like going into Narnia. It's like the crazy things you find. And actually, it reminded me you saying about that Canon camera. I was having a kind of a dig around. It must be, obviously it's a lockdown thing, isn't it? We're all gravitating towards our lofts and our sheds and sorting things out. And I rediscovered I've got an Epson RD1 camera, which is up there in a bag. You remember that old digital rangefinder type thing? It's about 6 megapixels. And it is a lovely thing. It's like a real pleasure to use. I mean, it's a bit weird when you take a picture and you kind of view it back and you're used to kind of going right in and seeing all this extra detail, and the 6 megapixel image, you obviously just can't do that. But yeah, like a really
surely you don't need any more than 6 megapixels. I mean,
well, obviously I get it spot on every time. Yeah. Never have to crop anything. There's piles of junk besides that, and I was kind of going through a corner I hadn't been through for a while, and I found a load of old toys that I'd bought for about 20 years ago, sort of science fiction toys and things. And one of which is this sort of enormous alien figure from the film Alien, and it's really detailed. It's one of these things that I can't remember. I think I got it in a knockdown Sailor in Argos or something like that. Anyway, but I was sitting looking at this thing and I was thinking, actually, it would be a really good subject for a photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a still life subject, and I'm going to throw some decent lighting at it, and I'm going to get some smoke in there, and I'm going to have some fun with it.
And this, no doubt, will be something that you'll be posting up on the Photography News website to support your claims.
There is no doubt, yeah. And so when Fox or Disney sue me for copyright infringement or whatever it would be, showing their wonderful creature, I'll take the flak for that. As we emerge from our lofts, it brings us on to some sort of idea about what we may end up shooting in the next week or so. How about you, Rog? What are you going to...
Well, it's like when we initially went into this lockdown, everybody was kind of like, well, this is a bit weird. And then it's kind of like, and then my wife and I, we dug some jigsaws out and did that. And now we've done the jigsaws, and now we're just kind of like going through rationalizing stuff. And I'm looking quite seriously at my camera kit and thinking, I don't know if I need all of this anymore. So I thought that what I might do is I might actually get some of it up online and sell it. And it reminded me of something that the last time that I've actually been flogging kit is that I did a slightly different approach in terms of the way I photographed it, because you've seen this sort of stuff on online auction sites such as eBay. Other ones are available, of course, and they're terribly lit, or there's somebody's shadow in it or something like that, and the pictures really just don't stand out very well. But it was a tip I picked up, I can't remember from where, but it's really, really good, and I'd recommend it to anybody. And that is, when you're photographing smaller items, do them in the bath. Now, important, make sure it's not full of water in the first instance. But if you think about the design of a bath, like your standard, I mean, I'm talking about your bog standard bath in probably 85% of people's houses. It is basically, it's all white. So it reflects, bounces light all over the place, and it's got a curve on it.
It's like you've got it's your own infinity curve, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So what you need is you put your camera or your object that you're selling down at the curve end of the bath, not the tap end, and then you put your camera at the other end. Now, ideally you need a camera that's actually got a tilting LCD, so you can tilt it out by 90 degrees, makes it a little bit easier from a framing perspective. And then what I did is I've just got a little pop-up sort of diffuser which I put over the top of the camera, and then basically fire flash up to the ceiling, down, just TTL flash, and it produces a really, really good result. It looks like a sort of almost like a professional quality product picture. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to sell it any quicker, but it just looks really good because the light just all bounces around. It's all evenly lit. There's no shadows, and it just looks really good.
Well, Roger, I think that's a great idea and a great tip for readers who are into auction sites, but I don't have the patience for auction sites. I can't be bothered. So I had a load of stuff to sell recently, and I just went up to an online retailer, and I just went on one day, tapped in what the details of the product were, what I thought the condition was, click send. Within 12 hours, I had a response saying, we'll give you this for it. And literally the dealer came and picked it up. Now, just to further that, my next experience was with a company called MPB. Uh-huh. Now, last year, when we could fly and travel and do everything like that, I had a trip to Venice planned. And I was going to Venice on the Saturday. Okay, so on the Monday morning, I was just mulling over about what I was going to take. And bear in mind, this was 5 days later, I was traveling. And I thought, I wouldn't mind a zoom for my medium format Fujifilm camera. So I was taking my GFX 50R to do some night pictures. I thought, I want a zoom. And I thought, let's see what I can do. So I went online and actually went to MPB. I found a used sample of the zoom, which said it was in excellent condition. And like I said, bear in mind, this was Monday. I uploaded some details of some products I, just like you, don't use. They responded within a matter of hours. I accepted the quote. They collected the lens and got the new lens to me before I flew that weekend. That's remarkable service. I mean, I don't get paid by MPP to say that, but for me to actually get something, see something online on a Monday and get it for leaving the country by the weekend, awesome service. So what you're saying about, photograph for auction sites, great. But when time is pressing, use an online service. And like I say, MPB is one of many out there.
And do you get do you get a guarantee with it and all that?
Well, strangely enough, yes, you get a guarantee with it. But actually, the kit I also sent, I marked down the condition. I think I said good. And they actually came back and said, actually, we think it's better than good and we'll give you more. So I ended up, remarkably, I thought I was going to part exchange this lens and pay some cash. Yeah. And then the deal was so good, I got the lens and they paid me some cash.
Wow.
Win-win. And it's a cracking lens. I had a great time in Venice, which sadly I won't get to this year because of the pandemic, but never mind.
That's I mean, I have actually sold some bits to MPB in the past. Have you, Kingsley? Are you how do you sell your kit?
Yeah, same. Yeah, just leave it outside for the rag and bone man to get. No, I have pretty much the same experience as Will, actually. I had a really speedy sort of transaction. I kind of got rid of a load of stuff that I wasn't using. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you can almost look at your stuff, your cameras and your lenses. If you haven't used something in 12 months, 18 months, and you've got your eye on something else, it's kind of a no-brainer to sort of shift it along. Stuff that's sitting in your drawers just isn't doing you any good.
Absolutely. So moving on, Will. I mean, I'm going to be sitting in the bath photographing my bits and bobs, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm actually just going to flog it to OPV. What about you? I mean, you did food dyes last week or a couple of weeks ago. What is it this time?
Well, to be fair, for the feature, I started doing food dyes in water. I've gotten so into it now, I'm actually becoming quite an expert at it. So I'm still doing that. And basically, I've got two Profoto flash heads, the B10, which are compact battery operated flash units. So I've been doing not just food dyes through water, but also oil and water. I'm playing with bubbles as well. And so as well as all the stars and things like that, I'll be shooting all sorts of things. So my kitchen is literally a mini studio. I've got a couple of Profoto units in there. I'm in there most evenings. God knows what the neighbours think. Anyway, I'm in there most evenings shooting till the early hours. And I must say, I'm having great fun. And as well as shooting them, because some of the pictures I'm so pleased with, and I've also had some new paper to test. So Permajet kindly sent me some of their new product, which is Titanium Gloss 300. So not only have I been shooting, but I've also been outputting. So my photography, despite our lockdown status, has been very, very productive.
Is this where the plug comes in for limited edition prints? You'll be
well, funnily enough.
Signed by the expert Will Chung. Expert, obviously, in his own words, which is...
I'm an expert in my own kitchen as well, Rog.
I'm sure you are. So can you tell me a little bit more about that technique then? So it sounds like you're up to your neck in bubbles and oils and all sorts of things, which is all getting a little bit kinky in my book. But
it really is getting X-rated, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So what's going on with the flashes? How are you setting up? What's the score there?
Well, it's very, very simple. I've got two flashes. Basically, I've got a dish, which is a glass dish where I've been putting water and mixing in, for instance, food oil, vegetable oil. So you get some really interesting patterns with food oil if you put it in and gently swirl the water around. So basically you have a glass tank. Underneath you have a sheet of, in my case, a sheet of Christmas wrapping paper left over from last festive season. And I have two lights. I have one on either side with soft boxes. So they're coming in about 45 degrees. So to be fair, the lighting isn't particularly sophisticated. But the idea is really good. So I've got my macro lens out and I have my lights ready, of course. I drop some oil into the water and I get my chopstick. Do you remember my chopstick I used last
chopstick
died? My chopstick makes another appearance and I gently swirl the oil and water around. And as those patterns change, I photograph them. It's really awesome. It's great fun. Every picture is unique and you keep on trying it and you try it again and then you pour the old water away and you try some more oil. So I've been doing that with the Profoto lights, and also the same thing with the food colouring, which I've now evolved into more of a fine art. So I've worked out which colours work best. So it's I start with the brighter colours, lighter colours first, and add darker colours. And again with my fabled chopstick, if you gently swirl these around, you get some fascinating patterns. They're wonderful. I love it. I'm completely addicted by it now.
It sounds like I can see it.
Bubbles is my next thing now. Yeah, bubbles is my next thing. So I've been ordering some gar gum and I've used Fairy Liquid and making bubbles. And
what's gar gum when it's at home?
It's a food additive. It makes water slightly thicker.
Oh, okay.
So I found a recipe on the website, like, as you do with these things, and I've mixed them up. So with some Fairy Liquid, some gar gum, so I've got this gloopy liquid.
Right.
And the idea is you can blow bubbles and photograph them.
And presumably the B10s, you're just leaving them to their own devices, or are you taking control of them, or are you just shooting TTL?
No, I'm old-fashioned, Roger, and I just took control of them. I shoot everything manually.
Right.
And basically, the beauty of those lights, they're so simple to use. Once you've got them set up, I just leave them because, all the things are happening in front of my lens. I just need to concentrate. And the beauty of it is, as the patterns change, you can click away quite rapidly, and the flash gun keeps pace. Awesome. Really happy with the lighting, my little setup. Really loving this lockdown period.
So you're both using flash in your projects. You're going to bounce yours into the bath, and Will's going to use his pro photos. I'm going to use continuous on my sort of science fiction figure still life. I've got a couple of little Manfrotto Lumimuse LED lights which you can gel up really easily. So I'm going to stick some kind of blue and orange gels on them, and then kind of get some other lights going. But I'm going for the continuous lighting this time.
But the thing is, right, is that flash I used to, and I think this is probably something that might resonate with a lot of people who listen, is that flash I used to think was really complicated and I think there's a lot of photographers who might think the same thing. But actually, I mean, modern flash units, Will's talking about using his B10s. I'm using a Harnell unit, which is just a hot shoe one. And the TTL on it is great. It's really, really good. But actually, even shooting manually, if you think about it, it's just you are actually controlling the output of the flash. So you have control of it. It's not like the flash is taking control of you.
I think the thing is, Roger, what you're saying about flash dazzling people is perfectly right. But I think that's particularly in the case of them dark film days, because film is expensive and you took a picture, you had no idea what you were getting until you got the film processed and back through the letterbox. With digital now, you go, click, oh, it didn't come out, I'll change it. Oh, it's too dark, click. Yeah. So I think the fear with flash is gone now. And I mean, Kingsley is right in that continuous does offer great opportunities, but for me, I need the action stopping ability of flash, because I've got things moving around and continuous light just wouldn't work for me. But the good point you make, and the non-continuous light, the LEDs are so good, so cool and so bright. Cool as in they don't run any temperature at all, and they're so powerful. They're wonderful. So I can understand why Kingsley's doing it.
Yeah, and of course you don't actually have to have specific LEDs or whatever. You can quite easily just use a desk lamp or a torch or a bike light or something like that, can't you? You don't necessarily need to use LEDs specifically for that purpose, I guess. So we obviously we said from the start of the first podcast, and it's still very much true now, that what we want this podcast to be is something where people get in touch with us and tell us what they're up to. And we're on our early stages, so we don't expect to get millions of you getting in touch. But thanks for those people who have got in touch. Particularly the guy who got in touch to say that Will's audio was poor. So obviously we've taken that right on board. I've got his name written down here. What is it? It's Michael Virazka. Sorry if I've got your name wrong, Michael, but thanks for getting in touch, and nice to hear from you. One other person who's got in touch with an idea which I just thought might be worth passing on is a former colleague of ours, a chap called Ian Farrell. He's a professional photographer based in Cambridge. And he said it was great to hear us on the podcast. And he was saying that he's basically recommissioned an old scanner of his, and he's going through using ViewScan software to digitize all his old negs again. And he's obviously, and in the same way that I guess Will is going to, digitize that picture of him that's currently on Egyptian parchment. It's Ian's obviously going back and looking at some of his old pictures and is digitizing those as well. So nice idea, Ian. Good stuff. Hope you get some good stuff out of that. I guess that leads us on quite nicely to letting you know ways that you can get in touch with us. We are going to continue to do this podcast on a fortnightly basis, but if you ask us to do it more regularly, we might do, and if you ask us to do it less regularly, we might not. So it's going to be fortnightly, but please do get in touch with us. The easiest way to do that is by emailing us, and the email address is podcast@photographynews.co.uk. Obviously, during these lockdown times, we're still keeping our website populated with loads of information. So you can go to photographynews.co.uk. And we'd also love you to sign up to the digital edition of the magazine, which is available if you can go onto the Photography News website, or there is also a shorter URL, which is quite simply getpn.co.uk. That's get, then letters pn.co.uk. If you go through that method before the end of May, you'll be automatically entered into a draw which could scoop you an Olympus Tough TG6 camera. So why not sign up that way if you haven't signed up already? We're also obviously available, as we've already touched on earlier, on the various social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And this handle is the same on all of those. It's @PhotoNewsPN. I think that's kind of us just about done, but we wouldn't want to finish without Will's final word, top tip. So come on, Will, what have you got for us this week?
Well, firstly, perhaps, Roger, I should apologise for the poor sound quality of my microphone, but I will endeavour to get another one that works. But my tip stems from basically something I need to do for the magazine every month when I get one, and that's lens tests. So I often get lenses coming in, and we test them. And recently, of course, with the lockdown, I haven't felt comfortable going out at all. So I thought, well, how do I test a lens if I can't leave basically the confines of my garden? So I could photograph the fence or the brick wall, but actually I thought what I'll do is I'll design a lens test chart. So I spent several hours in Photoshop on this thing. And the reason I designed it, I mean, the thing is, of course, listeners might go, well, just download one from the website. Well, you can find them on the web and you can download them. But of course, if I want to use them in the magazine, I might infringe copyright. So therefore, I thought I'd make my own. So I spent many hours making up a test chart, which in all its glory would be available for listeners to download. I will put up there an A3 size one and an A2 one. So the idea of the test chart would be just to print it out and photograph it with your lens. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to go into detail of how you can use it more effectively here, but I will add some instructions on the website. Things that can help you actually decide what the best lens aperture is. I mean, a lot of people don't realise how much lens apertures vary in terms of, they might shoot at f2 all the time when actually they could shoot, let's say, at 2.8, and the quality would be significantly better. And of course, you also hear landscape photographers stopping down their lenses to f16 and f22, which in fact, that's probably the worst thing you can do because the quality drops off so badly down to this effect called diffraction. So my tip for the podcast is try testing your lenses. A lens chart will be available to download off Photography News website. You will need to print it out, so you may have to use a commercial service, or if you're lucky enough to home printer, then do that. It will work A3, and I'll do one which is A2, and I will describe how you can get more out of the A3 version. So even though it's quite a small print, you can do a very thorough lens test on it.
Fantastic. So that will be available. We may not get that. The podcast is going to be available pretty much straight away. We might not get the lens test chart up on the site quite so quickly as we're heading into Easter. But we will make that available. And it is a thing of beauty. I must say, Will, that must have driven you insane designing that in Photoshop, because it's basically just lots of little sort of circles and squares with lots of little thin black lines on it, which looks like, that would have sent me absolutely crazy designing that.
So, it's a fairly basic thing. I'm not pretending this is an empirical test for your lenses, but it just helps you identify which are your good lenses, your best apertures. And I'm quite proud of it. And I've no doubt it'll evolve even more now, because I'll probably geek out about it later on tonight when I've had a few glasses of wine. So I've got nothing else to do. So who knows? But it works quite well, I have to say.
And I'm sure plenty of people will be quite, as you've already touched on there, plenty of people will probably be quite surprised to discover that F22 does not necessarily produce as good results as F11 or F16 might.
Yeah, I definitely, I did that a few years ago, and because I'd been shooting like a lot of people, 16, 18, and ever since then I've kind of very rarely used those apertures for landscapes. I tend to shoot at F11 or F14 now, and even focus stack stuff, just to get that better quality. So it is a really good one to kind of look at, and as you say, sort of getting to know lenses individually as well, because not every lens performs the same.
Again, and proves why your pictures aren't as sharp as they should be.
Thank you very much.
Wrong aperture selection, mate. Right, well, on that note, I think we better end before we fall out. We hope that you've enjoyed this second podcast. Like I say, please do get in touch and let us know. But for now, thank you very much, Kingsley.
See you next time.
I hope so. And Will, don't go too mad. Don't go crazy designing too many lens charts.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
Okay. And everybody out there, take care, stay safe, and we'll speak to you in a couple of weeks. Cheers.
What was that?
Squeaky chair.
Oh, God, get the dog barking as well.
I'll stop moving.
This all needs to go on. This is the problems of recording a podcast from home, isn't it?